Hi, my name is Tori. I'm the editor of the I Do Wedding website, and this is I Do TV. I'm very excited to be talking today with the person who single-handedly reinvented the design and decoration of the wedding cake, turning what was a white cement brick into a magnificent monument of edible art. She has created cakes for celebrities and royalty alike, and her signature designs are imitated by wedding cake decorators around the world. I'm talking, of course, with Anthea Leonard from Sweet Art. Hi, Anthea, how are you?
Hi.
Now tell me, where did the tradition of the wedding cake come from?
Hundreds of years ago, it was a stack of buns and the top one was broken over the bride's head.
Okay, so what options do we have when it comes to the wedding cake? I know that there is a DIY option where a friend can decorate and make the cake herself or with her mum. You offer wedding cake decorating courses as well. What is some advice you can give people who are thinking about going down this track and having this option?
If you want to make your cake yourself, you've got to think about the type of flowers you want to have on it, if you want flowers at all, and start making them months, even 6 months beforehand, because they take a long time to make and it doesn't matter how hard they are. Okay. If you want to have fresh flowers, you've got to remember a couple of things. If they're poisonous, wrap the stems. Do not spray the flower thinking that you're giving it life, because the water will melt the sugar in a paste icing. So you've got to dry every petal and then put it onto your cake.
So if we're not going to go down that DIY option, what sort of prices can we expect to pay for wedding cakes these days?
Anything from about $500 to $2,000. But don't forget that you also have an option of getting a cake in the package, in your venue package. It's not always the cake that you might want.
Right.
But that is another thing that's happening a lot lately.
Okay. And tell me about some of the more expensive cakes. What sort of work goes into that? What do you get with those more expensive cakes?
Lots of flowers, lots of lace piping. People aren't so often wanting cake toppers, little people standing on the top. But if they do, that can take $500 or $600 if they want very intricate work with their frocks.
Yeah, I can see that the cakes that you brought in today don't have the cake toppers. So is that a trend that's sort of dying out and we're coming back to some more traditional cakes?
I like to change the colour of cakes as well. So if you're going very simple with your cake idea, you can do a very ice colour of the bridesmaid, like a very, very muted pale green or a nudie colour or a very, very pale latte, and then put your flowers in ivories and off-whites on top of that.
So you don't match the colours?
You don't particularly want an ivory cake with an ivory dress, I think, because you're standing behind it so that
it all blends in together. Yeah. So when a bride comes to see you, what sort of things should they have already thought about?
Their colour scheme, the flowers that they're having, the flavour that they'd like. We do give them taste tests so they can come and taste a lot. They often change their mind.
Right, so then the groom would probably come along to that too, seeing there's a
true.
taste test.
In fact, these days the groom is having quite a say in the cake. I'm finding that with a lot of the wedding, the bride has her say, but the cake, the groom has his say. It's very interesting.
Okay.
Now, another thing that she needs to think about is how many people that she wants to serve.
Right.
Because if they have 60 people, really they only need one tier or two very small tiers. Often they look at cakes and see a 3 or 4 tier cake and they're having 50 people and they just don't need it.
Are there some tricks that if you do want to have a 3 or 4 tier cake, can you, and you've only got 60 people, are there some tricks there that they could do?
Well, 60 people and having a 4-tier cake, their budget gets blown out terribly. So you can put a fake layer if they want that. I try and encourage them not to do that, asking them if they have a family party the next day that they could use the tier in. But you can put a fake layer, or you can make them much more mini. So you might start the bottom with a 10-inch 8, 6, 4. It's gorgeous.
I see. And looking at some of these cakes, where do you cut the cake?
Often, obviously, they can't cut the top if they want to keep that, though that's a tradition that's not encouraged these days. Put the knife in and cut, I say. Just don't touch the bottom.
And talking about the tradition of keeping the top tier, what do you need to think about if that's what you want to do and have it at your, a year or two down the track?
If you want to keep the top tier, you really do need to have a tiered cake. If you want something like a wrapped cake or an odd-shaped cake, you can't put your knife in at the top. So you've got to stick your knife in the side of the cake and cut
down.
And then it's a terrible task for the actual chef at the venue to slice off the top tier that has to be kept and to seal it on a board so that the air can't get into it so that you can keep it.
So Anthea, talk me through the cakes that you've brought in today.
The oldest design that I brought in today is called the Tuscan Floral, and it's got draped fabric in icing, of course, with lots of flowers. Now, that cake is from the mid-90s, and that was done for Vogue. It was on one of their front covers for their wedding issue.
It's really beautiful.
It's a beautiful cake, and believe it or not, lots of people are coming back to that because it's just so simple.
Okay, so with the intricate flowers and the detail there, okay.
Brides are going lots of flowers, not so much lace, or very, very simple these days, and you'll see a lot of designers are just doing one big flower or a couple of big flowers. It seems to be minimalist.
Okay, and what about the beautiful one I love, which is the silhouette, the black and white one?
That's the latest design that we've just done. It's gorgeous, isn't it? Now you'll notice there's not even a flower on that cake, and it still works.
Oh, it's really nice. Oh, it's really nice.
Another cake I've brought in is a Mad Hatter, and that's a very wonky shape that's been around quite a long time. I called it the Mad Hatter because originally I did it with diamond sides. So that pattern came from that. I also brought you in a Springtime. Now, a Springtime was always a very tall cake. So you had 3 tiers in the bottom and 2 tiers in the top, ringed with flowers and topped with flowers. Originally it had stems piped up the side. It then evolved into what everyone knows as the Indian summer with simpler lace piping. And then now, the modern version of the Springtime, no piping at all.
Well, thanks, Anthea, for coming in today and sharing with us those beautiful cakes. To find all the information you need about planning wedding cakes, visit the I Do Wedding website and follow the address at the bottom of the screen. And until next time, happy planning.